Alright guys, welcome to Advanced Color Correction tutorial. In this lesson, we will delve into using curves and levels for tonal adjustments, color balance and selective colors for color grading, and hue and saturation adjustments for fine-tuning colors. So first of all, we're going to get into using curves and levels. If you've been following this tutorial from the basic part, you will know that we've touched some of these things before, but now I want to go more in depth into them. So the first of all, we're going to use levels, and I'm going to use these things from here, right, from the adjustments panel, such that they can be adjustable. We can hide them and add them as we want, such that we achieve what we call non-destructive editing. So first of all, what are levels and curves? Levels adjust the brightness and contrast by modifying the shadow, midtone, and highlights. Curves provide more precise control over tonal range and color channels. After you learn these two tools, you might probably stop using brightness and contrast. I know some of you, since you learned brightness and contrast, you've not let that particular tool rest, right? After now, maybe brightness and contrast might now rest a little bit, because these tools give you more control over the brightness and the contrast of your image. So for the levels, to access them, you can go to image adjustments and levels. Of course, image adjustments and levels over here. But we don't want to use that because we want to add them as adjustment layers, right? So you can come over to here to your adjustment panel and look for levels. Here it is. You can click on it. If this adjustment panel is not showing, you can come over to Windows and look for adjustments, and it's going to appear. So you can click on the levels to start editing them. To adjust the histogram, now if you observe, we have a histogram here. To adjust that histogram, you are going to see two areas. There is the input and there is the output area. So this is the output area and this is the input area, right? So what you want to do is to begin to adjust these things to create the effects that you want. Now this notch here represents the shadows, that's the black. Okay, let me just call it the shadows. This part represents the highlights, and this is for the midtones. If you want to use colors to represent them, you're going to say black, gray, and white. So if you begin to increase the black, of course you can see the shadows start increasing. You can see from the image. If you begin to drag on the white, you see the brightness of the image starts increasing. And then if you have it here, you can as well use the gray to balance things out, just like so. See that? Adjusting the mid-tone and all of that. So that is how this works. Now this particular one here used to adjust the output. So this is, in simple terms, how black can the image get, right? So this is used to set how dark it can get and how light or how bright it can get. This is the simplest way to explain it for you. If you put it this way, there is a level of darkness you cannot see or brightness you cannot see in your image. But most times you want to leave this here, except there is an effect you want to create particularly that requires that. So if you observe, contrary to your normal contrast and brightness, with this you can adjust the shadows without affecting the mid-tone, and you can adjust the mid-tone without affecting the highlights. All of them are independent, so to say, right? So this is so beautiful to use. And then coming over to the curves, you can go to image adjustment and curves, right? However, like I told you, I want us to work from here. So come to adjustment again and go to curves. Then you click on it. I'm going to hide the levels, and then let's see what curves has to offer. You can notice that this one, for the levels, we had a histogram. For the curves, of course, we have a graph, a curve. So you can actually add nodes or anchor points to this particular graph by clicking on it. You can click on the 2 points and begin to drag the points to adjust brightness and the contrast. So I can bring this up to increase the brightness and this to reduce the darkness of the image, right? So this adds more contrast. It makes the image more vivid. So you can adjust this. You can add more points here. However, I prefer adding just 2 and dragging them around. It helps keep me control. At least I know I'm controlling the brightness up here and the darkness down here, and everything seems to fall in place when you do it this way. You can observe that with this you can increase the brightness of specific colors. For instance, we are adjusting the RGB right now, but that's both the red, green, and blue. That's all colors. So but you cannot actually touch the red alone. Let's say I want to increase the brightness of the red, so I can add an anchor point here, add another one here, and it increase the brightness. As you can see, the red of the image is increasing, or you can reduce it here and all of that. So you can touch specific colors and work on them to create the effects that you want to create. I'm going to press undo to revert to normal, get back to RGB. So I already shown you the S-shaped curve. This is used to create the contrast, right? So always utilize this S-shaped curves and don't always try to add a lot of anchor points everywhere. So what are the best practices you can apply in using these two tools? You can use adjustment layers like I'm using now for non-destructive editing, and then you can fine-tune gradually and make small adjustments to avoid over editing. Of course, you can monitor the histogram to ensure that you are not clipping shadows and highlights unintentionally. So always be cautious of what you're doing and don't overdo it. That is the problem with editing. Once your editing is overdone, then you are no longer just editing, you are spoiling the image. So next, we're going to talk about color balance and selective color, right? I'm going to turn this off. You can go to image, like while selecting this your image, you can get to image, of course, go to adjustment and then click on color balance or selective color, right? But for now, color balance. But like I said, I want us to work with adjustment layers. So I'm going to come to color balance right here. So to adjust this, you will see that you have shadows, midtone, and highlights. You can adjust each tonal range separately. So you can pick up the shadow here and begin to adjust the tone. So for example, in the shadows here, we have yellowy stuff. So you can actually adjust it, right? Okay. So you can add more. Maybe you feel like the image is too yellowy and you want to add a little bit more blue. You can increase this here. That is for the shadows now. And then you want to also switch to mid-tone and now increase the yellow and the red. Okay, something like this. As you can see, this is giving us a good texture, a good image texture. And then you can come to the highlight and adjust it if need be, right? There is need for that. But that is it. You can adjust the tonal range of the shadow, the mid-tone, and the highlight using the color balance tool, right? So the next we're going to touch is going to be selective color. So as usual, you can come to image and adjustment, and you can find selective color here. So you can click on it, but that's not what I want to do. I want to cancel this out and then go and add it as adjustment layer. So I'm going to come over here and look for selective color here, and I'm going to click on it and then turn this off to see the effect of the selective color. So you can choose a range here, what you want to adjust. Let's say you want to touch the yellow, and then you begin to adjust these colors, adjusting the yellow alone. So this will be affecting the color that you selected here. You can adjust the yellow, bring it up, or the black, removing the black from the yellow and all of that. So that is basically editing specific colors in your image. You see, Photoshop allows you to actually adjust specific things, each area of the image, the darkness, the shadow, the midtone, and the highlight, and even the shadow, the midtone, and the highlight of each color in your work. The next thing I'm going to look at is going to be hue and saturation. I'm just going to go straight to adjustment layer and click on hue and saturation to start working with that. So the hue shifts all colors in the spectrum along the color spectrum. So if you're moving it, it's moving everything, all the colors through the spectrum, right? That's what hue does. You can use it to create artistic effect the way you want. And saturation, on the other hand, increases the color intensity, right? So let's say you have this now and you want to reduce the intensity. You're bringing it down. Instead of changing it to black and white fully, you can just keep reducing the opacity to something like this, or increase it. I mean, not opacity, saturation. And then you can also increase it to become very sharp, but not, of course, not like this, all of that, to create more, colorful images. So in this lesson, we've explored advanced color correction techniques, including using curves and levels for tonal adjustments, color balance and selective colors for detailed color grading, and hue and saturation adjustments for fine-tuning colors. Mastering these tools will allow you to achieve precise and creative color enhancement in your Photoshop projects. So if at this point you've not subscribed to this channel, I would like you to click the like button, click the subscribe button, and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post the next video. Thank you very much for following this tutorial, and I will see you in my next video.